Sometimes we get very attached to our companies. We want to be loyal. Trust me, organizations are less loyal to you than you are to them. They have their own plans. If you are lucky, they'll let you know. If you are unlucky, they will spring it as a surprise. So you need to have your own plans as well that are independent of your current employer. Hello everyone, my name is Modupe. Today we'll be looking at additional ways that you can grow your income. Because while you may not have as much time as your kids, you do have more capital and more skill sets. So one thing that I've learned in many years of investing is that in order to grow your wealth over time, nothing beats growing your income. Investments by themselves, they won't make you rich, not in a hurry. You'll be wealthy by the time you retire, but nobody wants to be wealthy only when they retire. We want to be wealthy today. So while investments will make sure that you are not poor in future, not poor, not wretched, not begging, they make sure you are okay when it's time to retire over a long period of time. But if you want to be wealthy today, then you need to grow your income, not just your investments. The good thing about growing your income is as your income is growing, the percentages that you can allocate to your investments also grow. So you're growing your income and you're taking out of that income to grow your investment. So your overall net worth will increase over time. The way I like to put it is that investing preserves your wealth, but growing your income builds it faster. Quick reminder before we go ahead. Everything we cover is for information only. It's not meant to be investment advice. If you do require personalized investment advice, consult a licensed professional. Let's start off with the number one way that you can all grow your income, and that's to increase your salary. Now, there are two ways that you can increase your salary. You either increase how much your current employer is paying you, which is not directly within your control, but if you make yourself a lot more valuable to your employer, it increases your negotiating power. You can learn a new skill. You can take on responsibilities that showcase what you can do. You can look for roles that have added bonuses. Maybe they give you more time or they pay for performance. Maybe it's a sales role where, unlike the person in the head office that gets a fixed cut, you get paid more depending on how well you meet your targets. Those are some options you could explore. But the other way that you can grow your salary is by simply changing your job. Now, statistically, this is actually the best way to increase your salary. A lot of people tend to stay with an employer until that employer says be going. But if you can actually move from one employer to another, the likelihood is when you take on that new job, you get a salary bump. When you take on a new role, you get another salary bump. So as you're moving from role to role, you're actually increasing your earning. I had a colleague when I just joined my workplace that we joined together as management trainees. It was a 2-year program. We finished it together. He worked an additional year and then left. He moved to a different company. 10 years into our careers, when you check his role on LinkedIn, he had moved through nothing less than 6 companies in that 10-year period. I was still with my employer. Now, I was also getting promoted, but I'm almost certain that he was earning more by that time because the last role he did then, I think it wasn't marketing director, no, but he was leading a brand by that time. So moving around can be helpful. Now, I know within our context as immigrants in the UK, that's often not easy. Most of the time, you want to stick with the employer that can sponsor you for the 5-year period or whatever that is by the time you're watching this video. So it may not always be that straightforward, but if you do get the opportunity, just keep it in mind that that's one of the fastest way to grow your income. And if you already have your ILR, then you can start shopping around for a better role or a better job. One thing to remember, sometimes we get very attached to our companies. We want to be loyal. Trust me, organizations are less loyal to you than you are to them. These hoes ain't loyal. They have their own plans, which if you are lucky, they'll let you know. If you are unlucky, they will spring it as a surprise. So you need to have your own plan as well. You need to have your own long-term plans, you need to have your own short-term plans, but you need to have your own career goals that are independent of your current employer. So when the time comes and you have your ILR in place, you no longer need sponsorship. You need to start to shop. You need to position yourself. You need to see what the market is paying for your role. In some cases, the market may not be paying as much as your current employer. In that case, you sit put. If you do find out that you can take on a more senior role outside, which often happens again, perhaps you can negotiate with your experience and use that to get the new role. Something else that I want to mention here is that sometimes we undervalue our experience from back home, from our home countries. We assume that no employer here will be interested in the experience I got from Nigeria, but that's not true. I have received a job offer before where the employer was actually interested in my experience from Nigeria because they needed someone with that specific knowledge. It was a multinational, but they needed someone with specific local market knowledge. I also have a friend that someone reached out to her on LinkedIn once for a role. And the reason they actually were interested in her was because of some experience she had had years back in Nigeria that happened to be on her LinkedIn profile. So you never know the unique combination of qualifications that people are looking for, the unique combination of skills and experience that will make you appealing to a potential employer. So make sure your LinkedIn profile is well updated and captures the full breadth of your experience from back in Nigeria and over here in the UK. Something else I've learned in this country, experience is a lot more valuable to a lot more employers than your qualifications. So sometimes people keep chasing the masters and so on, and then they get the MBA and they realize that no employer is really interested in your MBA. I know MBA holders that have been interns in my company before. So it's not your MBA that is going to impress them. They want to know, where have you worked? What have you done? So you need to package those experiences well. Now, the good news is your income doesn't have to rely strictly on your salary. The other ways that you can grow your income. The other way you can increase your income sometimes is by changing your location. So if you're living outside London, London, as we know, has the highest paying employers. Unfortunately, it also has the highest paying employees. There's a saying they say about Lagos, Nigeria. They say, "Owo Eko, Eko Longbe." That translates to Lagos money lives in Lagos. This is almost similar with London. London money stays in London. You end up spending half of it on rent, on transportation, on food, on a lot of things. So a smart way to balance that is you do move to London to get the increased income, but you stay on the outskirts of London so that your expenses don't necessarily match your income. So you can reduce your expenses by moving somewhere a bit further out. It's not something I do, but if it's something that you can manage, you can stay on the outskirts. And the good thing about London and the UK in general is transportation is relatively good. So you can actually reduce your rent by moving further out and still get to work within 45 minutes to an hour, depending on where you move to. So it's also something to consider. It would generally increase your disposable income, which is the amount of your overall income that is left after you pay the taxes and paid all the essentials. And of course, if you have more disposable income, you have more money to invest, you can build your wealth faster. I talked on LinkedIn earlier, but this is actually very important. One, LinkedIn is a growing platform. Unlike Twitter, unlike Facebook, Instagram, those platforms are saturated. LinkedIn seems saturated right now because once you open it, you see posts all over the place. But in reality, roughly about 1% of the people on LinkedIn actually post anything. So what you want to do is clean up your profile. Make sure you have a good headshot. Make sure your qualifications, your work experiences is well documented with your skills. And then start to post. Post regularly. It could be once a week. But when you post, also comment on other people's posts, because the LinkedIn algorithm looks at comments almost the same way it looks at your original posts. I became a top voice on LinkedIn, not necessarily by creating my own fresh posts all the time. I used to post occasionally, but something I used to do a lot more. There was a time when LinkedIn used to have these collaborative articles where they would have a topic, create the skeleton of the article, and then different people can just be putting in their own thoughts on the different sections, and then it becomes an article. I think they've stopped it now, but I used to be involved a lot in that because those questions used to trigger my thoughts. And when I see a section, I'll be like, yeah, on this bit about this topic, this is what my experience has been and this is what I think. So I used to contribute a lot to those collaborative articles. The suggestion is you should try and do 3 things on LinkedIn every week. So it could be a post, it could be a comment, it could be a quote, something. Just do 3 things on LinkedIn every week. I mean, that's 3 things in 7 days. You can do 3 things in a day. And then follow interesting people. Follow the kind of people that their own posts will give you ideas of what you can even talk about. A lot of my posts last year were me just reacting to something I saw. So I would see something, maybe a video by Steve Bartlett, for instance, and I'll be like, this was actually my experience on that topic. And then it turns into a post. I've even created some articles that started off like, it was just a clip, but it just made me start to think. And at the end of the day, I turned it into a full-on article, because I also maintain a newsletter on LinkedIn. But you don't need to maintain a newsletter on LinkedIn. You don't even need anything elaborate. Just a post with a picture. Could be a picture of yourself. There's a lady that I follow on LinkedIn. She's in Nigeria. I think she works in HR. She has an account where she talks about her HR experience and things like that. But all her pictures are mostly pictures of herself. Smiling, standing, walking, posing. Just pictures of herself. But her articles are good. And consistently getting followers. So make yourself visible on LinkedIn, because that increases the traffic to your account. When people see some interesting posts, they're like, who's this person? Click, let's see their person, let's see their qualification. What you could post about is things that have to do with your skill sets, the skill set that you're trying to offer to a new employer. So you could write a post about, this is what you discovered about this topic. In 5 years of working in this field, these are your top 5 tips. Things like that. But it's good. Build a brand on LinkedIn. It's a platform where you have employers, you have employees, you have business people. It's a serious platform. People go on Instagram and Twitter and just talk generally as if they are just talking generally. But at the end of the day, everybody's trying to make money. But it's not direct on all those platforms. On LinkedIn, we know why we're here. It's not just I'm happy to announce. It's actually we're here because, one, I'm either trying to promote my business, I'm either trying to promote myself, or I'm an employer looking for one of those things. I'm either looking for a business to employ or looking for an employee to recruit. It's a marketplace, basically. Something else you might be surprised to get is you might actually get speaking gigs from LinkedIn if you become big enough. I have a friend who regularly gets speaking gigs, but beyond just LinkedIn, this person also off the platform has registered with a lot of bodies. So you have all these societies for people in different fields. So it could be your association for chartered accountants, or association for marketing experts, or it could even have to do with minority groups. So maybe women in business, or black people in the UK, or things like that. You join those groups, meet up with people, and it opens opportunities up. Another cool thing about LinkedIn is it's a lot easier than YouTube and all these other platforms, because you can put a video if you want, or you can just put a picture. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but you can actually build thousands of followers on that platform. And if you want to direct them to something else that you're selling, it's easier that way. You can just say, okay, check my LinkedIn profile, or put the link on all of your posts. So I think it's a good platform to build a personal brand. The other ways that you can increase your income, if you do want to set up a side hustle, a side gig, that's also an option. But for a 9-to-5 employee, it's a lot more time consuming than simply working on your existing source of income and simply taking those skills and finding someone that is willing to pay more. Your assignment for today is simple. Write down one skill that could increase your income. Not 5, not 10. 1. If you could pick just one skill that you already have, either you already have it today but it's not yet great, or you don't have it yet but you think you can learn it. Just pick one skill that you believe that if I can max out on this skill, I have the potential to increase my income this year significantly. Then set a time aside when you will analyze that skill with ChatGPT or any AI of your choice and discuss ways that you can learn that skill and perfect it, and how you can monetize that skill. Then the other thing you need to do today, this one you can do it today, is update your CV. Update your CV, update your LinkedIn profile. People always say, I haven't updated my CV in a while. Yes, that's because you're comfortable with your job, but your job is not always going to be comfortable. I know at least 2 big multinationals that are going through restructuring as we speak. I did a video last year where I talked about different companies that have been doing layoffs in the last couple of months. So it's good to always have your CV updated. It's good to always have your LinkedIn profile updated. All right. So if you haven't updated your LinkedIn profile in a while, do it today. And then still on LinkedIn, check out 2 job listings in your field. Just look at them, see if you wanted to apply, would you qualify? As a matter of fact, if you can, look for one job that you will apply for tonight. If they invite you for interview, you don't have to do it. You can decline. You don't have to go beyond applying, but go through that exercise of applying for a job and see what it's like. Because applying for work is a skill as well. It's a muscle that you need to keep healthy. So do that tonight. And also look at your location. Decide if you are happy where you are or if there's any potential you might be willing to actually relocate so that you can increase your disposable income. The last thing I want you to do is write down an idea for a post that you put on LinkedIn next week. Just write the idea. You don't need to write the full post. Just the idea. I gave some ideas earlier. 10 years in this profession. What are my top 5 tips for new beginners in my profession? What are the top 3 things I've learned? What top 3 differences between doing this job in UK versus doing it in Nigeria? It could be anything like that. Just write some of those ideas down and then start to plan out your posts for next week. Remember, wealth grows faster when both your income and your investments work together. You don't want to put all the pressure on your investments and then you don't want to be generating income without investing. Both of them need to work together. If you are unsure about if you should switch roles or how to build your presence on LinkedIn, or if you prefer a different platform to build your online persona, if you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below.